Welcome back. You're still watching VOP this morning. Now, all road leads to New York for President Bola Tinubu and his Nigerian delegation attend the 78th edition of the United Nations General Assembly. The development was announced by the presidency in a statement released on Sunday afternoon. The president is expected to hold bilateral meetings with various world leaders, including Joe Biden, President of the United States, and von der Leyen, President of the European Union Commission, on the sidelines of the summit. President Tinubu's spokesman, Ajuri Ngelale, also disclosed that his principal would meet with the global president of Microsoft, Brad Smith, and the head of global affairs for Meta Technologies, Nick Clegg. He further stated that Tinubu's meeting with the duo would focus on strategies on how to improve Nigeria's digital transformation and leverage artificial intelligence. Joining us virtually to discuss this is Nick Agule, who is a public affairs analyst, and we also have John Akerele, who is a social commentator, right here with us virtually. Hello, Nick. Okay, kindly unmute your mic so we can hear you in the studio.
All right, John. Good morning to you, John.
Can you hear me?
Well, I believe
John
can hear me. Okay, great. Okay. So, John, the president of Nigeria jets out to New York to attend the United Nations General Assembly. Now, the big question is, what exactly is Nigeria looking to, what exactly do you expect to hear from the president when he gives his statement, his speech?
Well, for me, I want to hear things like what the administration is doing in terms of security. I want to hear where we are in terms of economy. What are the potentials that are yet to be explored? I want to hear the plans on things that they are working on as an administration in terms of the infrastructure, because it's another thing for you to bring in foreign direct investment. It's another thing for you to have it sustained in the system, you know. So, but if he is bringing all of those things, just like the president have said, that is like the #1 marketer of the country, and is going all out there to market Nigeria to the people. But marketing Nigeria to the people as against the reality on ground is just like pouring water into an empty basket, you know. So for me, I think critical areas should be looked in terms of the area of security, in terms of the area of economy, in terms of the area of empowerment, job creation. These are the areas they ought to be talking about, because if you're looking at the SDG goals, how are we as a country faring in terms of SDG goals? You know, you see that we are not there yet. And so what are the stumbling blocks that this administration must have identified as things that are not helping past administrations to hit the SDG goal, from goal 1 to goal 17? What are those stumbling blocks? These are things I think the president should be talking about as the UNGA, and also to reposition Nigeria, you know, in terms of earning the trust of the world, that yes, you must have had a relationship with us in time past, and it was not a sweet one, but we are, you know, we want to build more trust. We want to reignite the trust and make sure that this administration mean well for the people and show the transparency and accountability in that regard. I think we can be trusted. So that's what I think the president should be saying. Repositioning Nigeria, building back that trust, giving us that standing as a giant of Africa that we ought to be to the global players. And I think that's what he should be doing. More of image revamping, image realignment, you know, in terms of all that we stand for as a people and as a country, even as a continent. That's what I think he should be doing.
All right, Nick. Good morning once again. I believe that you can hear me clearly, Nick Agule. Now, Nick.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes, I can hear you too. Now, how important is it for Nigeria to be attending the UNGA this time around? How important is it?
It's important for Nigeria to attend, because this is a gathering of world leaders, and Nigeria should not be seen to be absent from the international scene. And so our president attending himself puts Nigeria on the global stage. This is the first time that President Tinubu is attending as president of Nigeria. So it also serves as an introductory meeting for him to meet with global leaders. I mean, instead of jetting out to individual countries to go and meet global leaders, meeting them in one place in New York is a bonus. However, like my co-panelist said, I think if we look at the presidential spokesman statement, the highlight of it is that our president is meeting with captains of industry, specifically naming Microsoft. It is good because the digital economy is what is actually taking over the world now. So for the president to now be meeting with the likes of Microsoft is good. But just like my co-panelist said, look, if you don't make your house to be neat enough, no matter how you try to attract visitors to your house, they are not going to come because of the unkempt nature of the house, because of the filthy nature and stench coming out from the house. Nigeria has not put her house in order when it comes to business. It is very surprising that at opportunities like this, which is like the UN General Assembly, the president, based on the statement issued by his spokesman, is not focusing on some of the basic things that are worrying us. And for me, we keep saying this thing. It actually beggars belief that no Nigerian president believes that something like power supply is a problem of the economy. You know, if Microsoft comes to Nigeria, are we expecting them to run on generators? If they run on generators with diesel at 850 or so naira, it will be more expensive for them to do business in Nigeria than to do it in Ghana or in Rwanda. So they would rather go to those places than come to Nigeria. So I think we have a lot of housekeeping that needs to be done. And we expect our president to be seeking global support for matters like power supply, security, which my co-panelist has already made, agriculture, infrastructure, and things like that. These are very basics. We have to get these basics right before we can have conversations with the Microsofts of this world.
All right,
All
then.
right, thank you very much. John Akerele, what do you think are some of the challenges or opportunities that Tinubu may encounter while attending the UNGA? And secondly, the presidency has been said to have planned to utilize or leverage on artificial intelligence. How far do you think this would help Nigerians when it comes to development?
Thank you very much for that question. And this is where it saddens my heart when people make such statements. Let me ask you, and let me ask those that make such statements, the potentials that comes with 5G network, have we even utilized it? That's a question to be answered. So if you are talking about countries that are using 5G now, what is the potential that 5G has? And how are they maximizing it? We as a country, have we even utilized 10% of the potentials embedded in 5G network? The answer is no. So if you cannot be able to do that, and you are now pursuing AI, it's just like a shadow in the dark. So why is it that we're not able to harness those potentials that comes with 5G network? It is based on infrastructural defects. Okay? And one of it is steady power supply. So this is why I said that the president needs to have, bring up a roadmap in terms of generation of electricity, in terms of transmission, in terms of distribution. See, put this plan on paper, write it clear, let the people see it with your ministers, let the people see that this in the next 3 months, this is what we want to do in terms of power. These are the alternative power sources we are looking at. When you bring in Microsoft into the country, would they also import their own generator and diesel as well? These are things that are inhibiting factors that does not, make some of these things to work smoothly. So we need to look at those areas. In terms of the technical skills, do we have those technical skills? No, we don't have. Okay, are you looking at a scheme that you can have transfer of knowledge? So these are simple questions, simple parameters that should be looked into before we say let's bring in these investors. Because when they come, these are things that are working in other clans on the world. Why? Because they have steady power supply. So can we increase our own generation? 5,000 for me is not something you should be proud of. It's not something you should even say on a global stage, because a city in America generates more than that. Okay? So what we should look at is what are those factors that are inhibiting constant generation of power? Can we solve those ones so that we can increase our generation? If we're able to increase our generation, can we increase our distribution network? Can we increase our transmission network? Can we be able to even account for the number of electricity that we generate and we transmit and we distribute? Do you understand? And once you have that, 80% of your digital economy is solved. Why? Because all of the digital economy runs on electricity. So if you're looking at your laptops, you're looking at your tabs, you're looking at your mobile phone, your smartphones, you need to charge them constantly. All right. And so in a case where you're working in an office and you have constant power supply, if you have to resume 8 o'clock and close by 4, means you have 8 hours uninterrupted power supply. That will increase your productivity. Okay, and with that, you have more hours spent on a particular software or a particular device you're using, and so you also increase your expertise skill and level. So these are things that I think the president and the people who are actually doing this PR, I see it as a work of PR. It's a good job, but behind the PR, can we also put in the fundamentals to make sure that when people come to do a background check, they see that what we are saying is what's already on ground. So they should look at those areas that should be worked upon before going on these visits. If you ask me, I would just say the president should come out naked before the world leaders and
All
let
right.
them know that this is where we have a deficiency and this is where we need help, even in terms of SDG goals. Why are we not achieving our SDG goals in the country? These and these are the problems we're having, and these are the ways world leaders can come to our rescue to help us if they see the transparency and the sincerity of purpose of the government of the day.
All right then. PR. That's how John puts it. Nick, let me quickly come to you now. Now, this kind of PR, Nigeria looking to, I mean, the president of Nigeria talking to executives of Microsoft and Meta, to leverage artificial intelligence and improve Nigeria's digital transformation. Is that what the president should be doing, really? Don't we have a minister that should be pursuing this, on the side, reaching out to these people and doing what the Ministry of Digital Economy should be doing, as against the president doing this? Nick, please.
Well, to my own opinion, there is nothing wrong for the president of Nigeria to have high-level meetings.
All right, we seem to have a frozen network there. Well,
Across the
if
world
John, okay,
of what needs to be done.
go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so
All right, Nick. Now there's a break there. There's a break in the. We can't
so
hear
what's
you.
okay for the president of Nigeria to have meet? Can, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, so what I was saying,
All right. Well, I would like to believe that if John is
meetings
still
where
with
the
us,
president of Nigeria sits, and then the nitty gritty is what is then done at the ministerial level.
okay,
Might want to relocate from that.
all right then.
I
All
think.
right then. Well, the bottom line is he said the nitty gritty. The president can go ahead and do this, but the nitty gritty is what the minister will not have to handle. So the president is laying the ground for the minister to
Follow
tread
through
on.
on.
Yeah.
Well, that's a way to look at it. That's a way to look at it. Nick, can you still hear us? Oh, okay. All right. John Akerele, are you still with us?
Well, John is
Yes, I'm
obviously
here.
okay.
Oh,
This is
okay.
what it is.
So,
The
how
high
does?
level meeting is hard, and then ministerial.
Oh, okay. Nick, I don't know if you could find a better location because the network from there is seeming.
What you know what's going to happen? Let's stay with John on this
John,
one now.
okay.
Now, John, the let's look at last year. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was at the 77th UNGA, and he did make, he gave his own speech. He was the first actually to give a speech, and that was a significant one because it was the first time United Nations General Assembly were meeting after the COVID era, where they had virtual meetings. Now, in that meeting, part of the things former president talked about was I'm going to just take an excerpt from his speech there. He said ours is a vast country strengthened by its diversity and its common values of hard work, enduring faith, and a sense of community. We have invested heavily to strengthen our framework for free and fair elections. I thank our partners for all the support that they have provided our election institution. And then, all right. And then he goes on to say, as president, I have set the goal that one of the enduring legacies I would like to leave is to entrench a process of free, fair, and transparent and credible elections through which Nigerians elect leaders of their choice. Now that was at the last summit, the 77th summit, where he talked about the elections. Now, seeing the cloud hovering around current president's electoral results, the emergence of the president, how do you think the international community will perceive the president as he steps up to give his speech?
Thank you very much, Moses, for that question. And when people like us come on TV stations and radio stations or different platforms to hear our views, and as commentators and as analysts say some things, maybe Nigerians will understand why we're saying these things. Now, this is it. Don't also forget that these world leaders that the president is going to meet in New York also had their delegation come observe the election. And some of their delegation also sent a report to Abuja. And because of the report will also be sent back to their country that sent them on that errand. And so there is a PR image, there is a reality image on ground. And these two conflict each other. And so that already is what I'm saying, that as a country, we should learn how to do things the proper way so that people do not take us for a fool or just give us lip services. Don't forget that in New York, he will be meeting the president of European Union. And don't also forget the case of European Union reports that they brought against this present election that just got concluded. And you see that the report of the European Union is not a sweet one that goes down the throat of this present administration. So how will the president who emerge from that same process be meeting the president of European Union that the body issued the reports, and the president of European Union would have received a copy of the report of Nigerian election? Do you understand? So he must have been aware of some of those things in the report and looking at the president of today. So I see that it's going to be a little bit of distrust, mistrust or on trust, whichever English you want to use to classify this word in that regard. But they will just come and play the normal TV gimmicks, in terms of shaking hands, making pronouncements, making declarations. But behind those declarations is where you see the seriousness of the government as to what and what they will do. Presently is in the New York now, and then we expect that he will come up with something good out of the meeting. But then the political will that follows every statement, that is where I find it a bit confusing and dicey for me. Because on one hand, you have a union that issued a report about the election that brought you in as a president. On the other hand, you are meeting them and you are talking about repositioning. You are talking about gaining trust, which was not earned initially. So you see that if you look at the theme of the UNGA
Rebuilding
this time
trust.
around and the election that we are talking about, there is a kind of closeness in terms of the topic or the theme of this year's UNGA assembly.
Yes.
And that's
Just
where I
for
find it very
emphasis.
interesting.
So sorry to interrupt you. Just for emphasis, so our listeners get to know what the theme exactly is. The theme is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity. Yeah.
So you see that rebuilding trust, that is the particular phrase I'm picking out of it, the thing. Rebuilding trust, which means that trust must have been broken in time past. And I think that is where this administration, comes in terms of the EU reports about our election. And there's a connection between these two things, and that's what I think we should work on.
All right then. Well, if we don't have Nick on, we'll just have to stay with you, John. If you know. All right, sir. We do understand that Nick Agule is back online with us.
All right, Nick, what do you think are the expectations of Nigerians, regarding Tinubu's participation at the UNGA? Nick, did you hear me, please? Can you unmute?
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now. I said,
Yeah,
what are the expectations of Nigerian
my-
people? Yes, can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can. So did you get the question? Okay.
I got the question. I got the question, which is what are our expectations now that the president is off to New York?
Exactly.
And my answer to that is that for us in Nigeria, we are still suffering with the basic necessities of life. The other day, I was having a conversation with someone or in a group, in a WhatsApp group. There's a Nigerian that left for Canada, and then he was now advising people that if you are comfortable in Nigeria, don't japa. And I was telling people that, by the way, it is people who are comfortable in Nigeria that are japping. Because number one, if you are not comfortable, how can you even raise the visa fees and the flight tickets to Japa? And that people who are comfortable, they are jackpot because there are some basic things that you can't find in Nigeria. You have your money. Sometimes you wake up, you go to a petrol station, you just see that there are queues, no petrol. You have your money, you have your house, but you cannot sleep with your both eyes closed because of security issues. You come back home tired, you want to switch on your fan or AC, the light has gone. Your children are going to school that they are taking so much money from you, and yet you are not getting the value. You are sick and you are going to medical facilities that are nowhere. Those basic things are the things that make comfortable Nigerians abandon their jobs, their businesses, and just flee abroad. And for us, our expectation is that when the president is at an international stage like the UN General Assembly, he should be trying to draw global support that will come in here and help us. There are huge investor funds floating around the world looking for areas where they will make a landfall. And Nigeria is a beautiful bride because, number one, with more than 200 million people, that means we are a big market that any global investor will not ignore. Number two, we have a young, virile, fairly educated population that is ready to work. The jobs are not there. We have the natural resources that can be tapped. We are on the equator, meaning we're near the equator, meaning we have the sunlight for 8 to 10 hours a day. This sunlight that we take for granted in other places like in Europe, North America and co, when they see the sunlight, they are happy that the sun has come out. They are celebrating that the sun has come out. So we have all these things, and our expectation is that we want our president to just say, look, we need help. You guys should come in. I will provide an enabling environment, a level playing field. I will keep the house clean, and I want you guys to come and help develop Nigeria.
All right, Nick. Yes, still on you. The president has been making a whole lot of trips, from the G20 to the G77 and now, to the General Assembly. What exactly can we say, about the measure of these trips? Like what are the impacts of these numerous trips on Nigeria presently? How can we measure it?
I think the trips are becoming too many. I didn't even have the calendar of the UN General Assembly in my head. So I didn't know that a General Assembly was upcoming. If a General Assembly was upcoming, it was needless for the president to have gone to the G20 summit, because the same leaders he went to meet in the G20 summit are going to be in New York. So the president needed to have exercised discretion by saying, look, we are in difficult times in Nigeria. Inflation is biting, unemployment, and all of that. But this president is taking steps that doesn't show that he is ready to tighten his belt, just as he's telling Nigerians to do so. If the president went to the UN General Assembly, he would have met all the global leaders there. And then we are not talking about the president still appointing more ministers. Yesterday we were told that the president appointed two more ministers.
Two more, yeah.
The good thing is he appointed ministers for youth who are under 40. I think for the first time in our history, that is the first time this kind of thing has happened. So I give him kudos for that. But that makes him 47 ministers. This is just too much. This is just too much. We should be looking at the constitution being changed, where right now Nigeria constitution says a minister must come from every state of the federation, making them 36. Even that US where the president is now, I think they have only like 15 departments, which are headed by ministers. A whole United States, So a United States budget is in the trillions of dollars. Trillions of dollars. Our budget is just $20 billion at the federal government. And when you have 45 ministers, you divide 20, it's not even enough for them to pay their salaries, travel, stay in hotel, and do. That is why we are not seeing development. We are spending all the money on recurrent expenditure. The president should show that, look, he is also with Nigerians in terms of tightening our belt. Look, he doesn't have to appoint loyalists as ministers. There are many other jobs at the federal level, the NIMASAs, the MPAs, the NNPCs, where he can put people in. He mustn't say they are ministers that increase the cost of running ministries and the bureaucracy. So our expectations are just basic things. So in Nigeria, very basic things. We just want education, healthcare, water, electricity, good roads, train, all that. Simple. Let the president bring this back for us.
Expectations there for the president. Now let me quickly come to John now. John, we do understand that in Nigeria currently and in West Africa, there are a lot of insecurity issues going on. Coups in West Africa. Nigeria itself is having major insecurity. Just the other day in Port Harcourt, we saw a group of young men call themselves a certain cult, headed by one Tubaba, showing off on social media, carrying guns. And one would wonder, are we now in a banana republic? But here we are. The president presiding over Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and going to UNGA, United Nations General Assembly, how can he gather support for Nigeria in particular in terms of security support and Africa, Western Africa in particular now? What can he do to attract that support when it comes to security? John, please.
Thank you very much, Moses. I think the first thing is that if you don't clean your house properly, nobody will help you to clean it. And so many of these foreign leaders is going out there to meet, even have way more knowledge about the Africa he is living in, more than him. So if you are looking at the ECOWAS region, is he also in that capacity as the chairman of ECOWAS, speaking to other African country leaders, those who are of the seat-type mentality, those who are bringing in this nepotic appointments? These are some of the things that bequeath Africa and begat poverty. How do you, as a president, nominate your son as a minister? We were about to have something of such too, but thank God that the president, in his wisdom, did not go that route, because we would have just seen a kind of a Bola Tinubu as a minister of youth, but that didn't happen. Anyway, but there was a projection in that regard, but because the outcry was out there, so you should shift and ask yourself, these other countries you are going to seek for, solicit for help from, how do they say because the prime minister is an Irobo man, does he now appoint his son-in-law or his daughter-in-law as a commissioner or as a minister in the cabinet? No. You see, until Africa starts to appoint leaders based on capacity, competence, and capacity, we will never get it right. Not only in Nigeria, the whole of Africa as a whole. Because you see somebody who has been in leadership for 15 years, for 10 years, and there's no economic improvement. And I think that is what the president should learn from in this administration. You have appointed 47 ministers. That is too much. But I think also in reducing the cost of governance, if before now a ministry get about 14 billion, can we cut that to 7 billion? Can 7 billion be cut down to 3.5 billion? So even if you still maintain the number of ministries that you have, but the money that goes on to largesse and wastages can be reduced drastically. I make sure that money that are expended are money for capital projects that will be evident and that will increase the economic activity and the economic stability of the country. And that is the only way to go. That's on one angle. On the other angle is that the Western world leaders are also watching Africa closely, and they say it in their word that we are monitoring the situation on ground in Africa. What does that mean to you? It means that they have their eyes, their leg, their ears on ground in Africa. And before the news gets to even our own local stations, they already got the news. How do they get that? They have their intel here. So the interest we are pushing for them to say, come and help us, they already know that they have got more to gain from us than we will gain from them. And so it's on that path that African leaders, including my president, should understand that we need to get it right, position the country on the right track so that in no time from now, we can have a country we can build for ourselves and we can call our own. So you have appointed your ministers. In 6 months, if there's no if there's no progression, if there's no something viable that you can point out that, okay, in 6 months, we used to be here, now we are here. 6 months to 1 year, each ministry cannot give you their progress reports. I think such a minister should be fired. And that's when people will understand that when you are given that job, it's about delivering, it's about, giving achievement, giving scorecards, giving results. That's why you're a minister. If not, it will also be business as usual. That's on one hand. On the other hand, is that the issue of bloated budgets, the issue of, kickbacks on contracts should also be looked into, because these are some of the issues that make us to have all these bogus figures. How come you say you're a minister, your monthly allowances is not up to 5 million, and you are getting a car of 200 million, a 250 million? Where is that 50 million coming from? These are questions that we should be asking, and that falls down to the issue of having a strong institution. How come in Japan, in Korea, in China, a minister cannot just purchase a vehicle of such an amount, even though they are the producer of these vehicles? So you ask yourself, what will a 300 million vehicle do to innocent if you have 10 people who are buying 300 million vehicle? Moses, that's a lot of money.
Money indeed.
Okay, if that money comes into our local market, do you know the kind of job it will create? If we have a decree for those in the House of Assembly and saying all of our senators, even from the president, saying that I, as a president, and all of my cabinet members, all you must eat and wear must be made in Nigeria. And the Senate leader says that the same pronouncement. The Speaker of the House says the same pronouncement. All ministers say the same pronouncement. All permanent secretaries, all governors, all local government chairmen, all state of assembly members. Do you know what that will do to us in terms of local production? Do you know what will generate as a people? Then these are the indices that these foreign investors will see and say, for a fact, Nigeria is indeed the global market in Africa, the global force in Africa. And if we must get into Africa, we must get into Nigeria first. They know that truth. And that is why they are not taking us serious, because they have not seen the seriousness on our own part as a people. So I think going forward, the president is number one image person of the country, and he should be seen from his even working step to see that as this person who is upright, who knows what he's doing, who has a scorecard, and who is taking his time based on achievements from each minister and of cabinet members. And if they're not working, they are replaced. That is where we can see that truly he's really committed to his statement, he's working it out, and is ready to make changes as against his predecessors.
All right, then. Thank you very much, John. Now, let me come to Nick quickly. Nick, as you give me your final thoughts on this one, I would like you to consider. I want to know, Nick, are you excited? Are you excited that President Joe Biden has said that, look, the president of Nigeria is the only person he wants to see and have conversations with at the United Nations General Assembly? Are you excited at that? Now, as you respond to that, let me know what you think the president can do to grab this opportunity right now. What are the things that he should do to grab this opportunity? Because it is an opportunity. If the president of the U.S. is saying, "Look, this is the man I want to talk to."
First and foremost, we have a new situation in Nigeria now. Presidential spokesperson, I think he has added chief to his name now. Chief Adjutant fond of issuing statements that this or that has happened, and the other parties have never issued such statements. We are just on the Emirates and UAE visa ban lifting. So he came out and issued a statement and said the UAE have lifted the visa ban. Emirates will soon resume flight. And the UAE government and the Emirates, haven't equally said same. Yeah, and it is the same with this US president saying that he's going to meet only with the Nigerian leader. We have heard that only from the presidential spokesman of Nigeria. We have not heard a similar statement from the US government to say that for UN General Assembly 78, President Biden is only meeting with Nigeria's president. I think the presidential spokesman is fast losing credibility. People who are close to him should advise him. I know that he has come into a big job and the team might be entering his head. He should take it easy. So for me, I put no value to the fact that there's a statement from the presidential spokesman that President Biden will only meet with the president of Nigeria. There is no way President Biden will take his time and go to New York, and he's going to meet only with one president from Nigeria. By the way, it is in the news that President Zelensky of Ukraine is going to meet with President Biden. During this General Assembly. So
I
put absolutely no value on it. All we want is that we want the president of Nigeria to come back with goodies in his bag for us. And I've already mentioned one person who met with President Biden or other world leaders also met with President Biden is bad for us. That's the important thing to us.
Well, I didn't exactly get the last thing you said there. Did you say it's bad for us?
No, he's...
Well, okay. Well, let's keep you, gentlemen, as we go on to the second part of the show. Well, Governor Adeleke escapes death narrowly in what would have been an air crash, but could have gone wrong. Well, details of this when we come back. This is the conversation that we'll pick up when we come back from this break.